Happy Thursday. All right, I'm gonna add a comment. Hey, welcome. Hopefully, I'm gonna pin this comment. Hey Trisha, how are you? Welcome. I'm gonna have a little jams. This is gonna be my new thing. I'm gonna be having some jams every time I come on. So I'm gonna wait a couple of minutes and then I'm gonna send a text message to my She Live Club members so y'all can get the link to make sure you can join. I'm just drinking some water, you guys. Welcome in. Definitely tag people into this conversation. So if you know anybody who is thinking about quitting their job, maybe because they want to pursue entrepreneurship, that is what we're going to be talking about in this conversation. So let me turn down the music a little bit. Gotta get the vibes going. So yeah, tag people into the conversation. It's crazy. So I was just looking at the live on my computer and my lipstick looks orange. It's red. It's the Fenty red. So that's interesting that it looks that way. Okay, so I am gonna send a text message to the people. We have a few grooves on this. It's a very gloomy Thursday, y'all. Hey, Jamila. Hey, Monica. Welcome in. Hey, ladies. So we're talking about leaving those 9 to 5s, y'all. So go ahead and tag people into the conversation that you think should join. Tag them. Tell them to come join the live. I'm going to send out a text message to my She Live Club members. Hey, girl. And people are still joining the club. Okay. People are like joining the club literally as I'm about to type out this message. Hey y'all, hey. Yes, girl, we trying to lead them places. We are trying to lead them. Hey, welcome. Hey, Quentin, how are you? How is it going? So as people are coming in, go ahead and introduce yourself. You may see me looking over. I have my laptop here, so I'm sending a text message to my She Live Club members and just letting them know that I am live right now. I love some good tunes. Okay. Okay, so wonderful. Just sent the link out to my She Live members. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. So yeah, as you're coming in, please introduce yourself. I love to use my comments for networking. So go ahead and just tell us who you are, where you're from, and why you decided to join the conversation today. Yes, let's talk about it. Let us chat about it. And I just realized that link wasn't hyperlinked. That just went out. So if you just got a text, you may realize that link was not proper. Hello, welcome Christine. How are you doing? Hey Crown Me, welcome. Hey you Simpson, welcome in. So we're talking about, and let me know, so as you're coming in, introduce yourself, tell me your first name, where you're coming from, and why you decided to join today's conversation. I definitely want to shout you guys out. I love to use these comments to network. So this is an opportunity for us to get to know each other as well. Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, introduce yourself. Tell me more. Yes, so I'm going to make sure. There we go. And I'm just right now, I'm texting my She Live Club again because I realized I don't think that link was hyperlinked. So I just sent it out again. Welcome. Some of you are coming over from the She Live Club. Welcome in. Y'all just got a text. Hopefully, I don't know if it hyperlinked the second time. I was trying to make sure it was hyperlinked. So all you have to do is click on it and then it'll take you right to Instagram to make it easier for everybody. So I don't know if it did that. So Christine is from NYC and she loves to learn and she's curious. Welcome. Welcome, girl. We have you, Simpson, here. He is from Uganda. And he's Simpson, by the way. So your name is Simpson. Okay. He's from Uganda by way of Houston, Texas. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. So I don't know what the weather is like in Texas, but right now I'm in Metro Atlanta and it is rainy and dreary today. It was a nice day yesterday, so it's a little disappointing that it's raining like this, but we're dealing with it. We are dealing with it. Wonderful. And before I really get into the conversation, I want to invite you to share the link with people, tag them to come in, have them join. Feel free to also ask questions. You can either ask them in the comments or click the question tab at the bottom, and I will be addressing questions throughout. So yes, let's do that because we want to make sure we're getting to know each other. I want to make sure some of you, this may be your first time coming on a live with me. Y'all just joined the club. Uganda. Oh, you said your name is Uganda. Girl, why did I misread that? I am so sorry. Thank you for correcting me because I'm just like moving. I'm like, oh, you're from Uganda. No, I totally misread that. Okay, Uganda Simpson is your name. Boom. Okay, we got it. I'm so sorry. And Uganda is from Houston, Texas. Okay, we got it, girl. I'm so sorry about that. Hey, KGE Talent. Please come in, introduce yourself. Tell us your name, where you're coming from today, and also why you decided to join today's conversation. Okay, Uganda. I'm still saying it wrong. Okay, Uganda. Did I say it right this time? Uganda. Like Wanda, but Uganda. I probably need a pronunciation key. Uganda. I don't know why I totally misread that. I'm so sorry. Okay, Uganda. I'm so sorry, girl. Thank you so much for joining. I'm glad I got it right this time. Awesome. So if this is your first time seeing my face, I'm going to turn this music down. Let me know if you have any trouble hearing me. I'm going to keep the tunes going, but I want to make sure they're playing low so you all can hear good. Awesome. So if this is your first time tuning into a live with me, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Angel Mills, also known as Brand Coach Angel. And what I do is I help folks like possibly you who have really amazing business ideas and are looking to transition out of their 9-to-5s. But while they may have a lot of experience in their careers, they don't have as much experience in the entrepreneurship space. And so what I help them do is really close that gap by taking them through very transformative coaching experiences that helps you to learn how to adopt that an entrepreneur mindset, but also allows you to build out your brand so that you can build out a strong marketing strategy and also be able to leave that 9-to-5, right? To generate enough revenue where you're making the impact that you want to make in your business, but you also are able to leave, right? And you're able to spend your days doing what it is that you want to do. Awesome. Okay, so Uganda, you say you have been in business over 2 years, but continuously learning. Congrats to you. And I'm glad you're here to learn some more. So we'll love your feedback and tips as well as we're talking, because maybe you have some great things to share with folks who are coming in into the group also. And so as you're coming in, folks, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your name, where you're from, and why you decided to join the conversation. And I'm going to shout you out because it's good for us. So we want to know who's in the room. We want to know who's in the room, who's hanging out with us. So I just introduced myself, and I want to set the tone a little bit for why I wanted to talk about this topic. So a lot of us are in a very interesting space right now. So some of us are going through maybe a little bit of a forced career transition because perhaps maybe last year we were laid off from our jobs, or we're recognizing, hey, our families are at home. Maybe we're homeschooling the kids. Maybe the kids are doing virtual learning. And we're like, me trying to work from home and help homeschool the kids is not working. So I may need to find something else. Now that my lifestyle has shifted and changed due to the pandemic, I might need to be thinking about finally starting that business or finally working on that project and building that out so that I can have more of a flexible schedule so I can do the other things in my life that I want to do. So that is why I really thought it was important to have this conversation. A lot of us are starting to think more about our lifestyles. Folks are moving, folks are switching jobs, folks are leaving jobs. And so it's a really great time to just have that conversation as we're really thinking about what do we want this year to look like? What do we want 2022 to look like? And what are the things that we need to get there? So just to introduce a few more people, we have Tony from Dallas, and she received a text and was interested in the subject. Wonderful. So I'm assuming you're part of the She Live Club. So for those who are not part of the She Live Club, go ahead and text She Live to the number linked in my bio, and I will send you a text each time I'm live having conversations like this one. I also have Dee Stubbs here, and she is currently in corporate sales, and she wants out of that thing. Ooh, honey, I bet. Okay. And Positive 3849 says she's ready to roll out also. So a lot of us are ready to roll out. And so now I want to ask you guys, what are some of the reasons why you feel like, you know what, it's time for me to possibly think about or start to put into action my plan for transitioning out of this job thing? Like, what is it that is happening at the job or in your current environment that you're like, you know what, it's time for me to start making that shift? And so I know for me, it was a subtle feeling at first. It was just, I got the feeling like, I want to work with entrepreneurs, and the current job I have doesn't really allow me to do that. So maybe I can start a business with the same skills that I use in my job and help people and help the actual entrepreneurs that I want to help. And so I started working my business as a side hustle, as so many of us do. So many of us right now are side hustlers, and maybe on the side, we are building up our enterprises with the hope and dream that one day we're going to have our enterprises in a space where we can leave and be working on them full time. And so that was definitely me. But when I started my business, I didn't have an exact time frame for like, okay, this is when I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave within a year. I'm gonna leave within this time frame. I was kind of cool for a while working the business on the side and working my business full time. And so I really feel like, I'm not sure if everyone is spiritual, but I feel like God was at a certain point had been nudging me. It's like, it's time for you to start. I know you don't have all the pieces figured out. I know you don't have all the things in place, but it's time for you to start moving. It's time for you to start moving up out of here. And so I remember continuously having this feeling of dread over time as I had to get up and go to this job. And I remember one day sitting at my desk looking around at the people, and I had been at this job like almost 3 years. So the environment was super familiar to me, but I remember looking around at everybody and being like, I don't belong here. Why am I here? I shouldn't be here. I should be doing something else. Like, I was just looking so suspiciously at everything like, why am I here? Like, this is not fit. So that was a point where I was vibrating, right? My vibrations were no longer in alignment with that space. And ultimately, the universe took me up out of there, right? And kind of pushed me a little bit abruptly, more abruptly than what I was ready for, into full-time entrepreneurship. And y'all, I was scared, honey. I was scared. I didn't have all my plans in place. I really was not prepared to really pursue my business full force at that time. And so I kind of felt like God put me in a position to where I had no choice. Like I've been telling you that this is where you need to be. And this is ultimately where I wanted to be. It's not just God pushing me there, but it's what I want. It's my desire. And I felt like, but it's not time. Well, maybe next year I'll quit, or maybe next year I'll. No, God was like, your time has run out. It's time to make the move. And so and that's the beautiful and hard thing about when you have a real desire for something, because a lot of you will find once you really set in stone that you have this desire to transition out of your job and you want to start working on your own business and you want to start living a lifestyle that is more in alignment, not with what society tells you it should be, but more in alignment with what you want, you're going to find that subtly you're going to be pushed in that direction. You're going to start, even though if you had it all up to you, you might kind of coast and like, well, I could work here another year or two. I could work here another. And you'll feel like that pressure to be like, no, it's time to move. It's time to move. And so some of you are in that position right now. And that's why when you saw the title of this live, you said, let me come up on in here, because I'm getting that feeling, that pressure. Because for me, it was a nudge. And eventually it was just like get out. Get out of here and start doing what I've called you to do and what you really want to be doing ultimately. And for me personally, I'm not a fan of people living lives. I support people living the lives they desire and deserve. I don't want to encourage anybody to live a lifestyle that is not in alignment with what they truly want. And I don't believe in doing what you don't want to do for long periods of time. Now, of course, in life, there's certain elements, certain points in time we have to do things we don't want to do, but you cannot base your life around that. You just can't, right? You cannot base your life around going to a job every single day that you hate doing. And so something has to change. You have to start to, and honestly, quite honestly, once you allow yourself to want it, it'll start to happen naturally. Like, honestly, you don't have to do anything, but it will start to happen naturally. And there'll be opportunities and things that will be put in your path to help to transition you out of that space. But you have to accept that there's more than one way of doing something. There's more than one way of making a living. There's more than one way in making a difference. You don't have to have a job, right? There are people who are entrepreneurs who are doing really well. And it's not that it's an easy path. Nothing is, neither is working a job. Neither one is easy. Okay, so it's not that it's the easy thing, but it's the thing that most resonates and aligns with you, and therefore it is going to prosper because you are operating in alignment with what you want to do. So really, if you're in that space where you're considering, should I leave my job? What I want to be doing? Lean into that. You don't have to make a decision and make a move right at this moment. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow, but I'm saying lean into that. Explore those interests. Explore those things that you want to do. And so some of the top reasons that people are not leaving their jobs or why they delay these decisions is, for one, a lot of us are addicted to the paycheck, right? We're accustomed to having every 2 weeks or every week a certain amount of money deposited into our bank accounts. And so I will tell you, that is it's just like smoking, and people are accustomed to the hand to mouth kind of action. It's very similar. It's a very hard, when you're accustomed to having money come in like that, it can be hard and scary and intimidating to make the transition into entrepreneurship, because you're like, oh my God, the money might be inconsistent or maybe not as much, or like, oh my God, like it's a stressful thing. And that's a real thing, because we all need to support ourselves. We have to pay our bills, support our families, support whoever it is that we're responsible for. So yes, it is your responsibility to take care of yourself. But I want to let you know that when you decide, like, it is possible for you to make that living and support yourself, maybe even in a better and a more profound way than you could at a job, in entrepreneurship. So that's one of the biggest reasons, and especially when I'm speaking to clients, because I work with people who are making this transition, that is that's where the fear grips. Okay, that is where people are like, but even if the paycheck ain't even that good, it's just the consistency of it. Like, I remember when I was working, my paycheck was not the best. It really wasn't. I wasn't sweating over that little money, but it was like, but it come every 2 weeks and I know it's going to be there. And so that was what made it super difficult for me to make that move. So I'm not saying that you're going to completely overcome that right away. Like, you may have to make that transition before you overcome that connection. And ideally, as an entrepreneur, you can create that for yourself as well. You can pay yourself every 2 weeks if that's what you need to do. If you like that security, you can provide that security for yourself. So that's one of the big reasons, of course, is the paycheck. People are concerned around health insurance, retirement, not as much so as before retirement savings, because while there's companies who match 401ks and things like that, there are a lot of companies that don't do that anymore. So I think it may not be such a big thing for retirement for people, but a lot of people are concerned around the health insurance piece. And so I want to let you know there, I'm not an expert on health insurance for folks who are entrepreneurs, but there are definitely options out there for you to get your own plans. Right, there's marketplace options, there's third-party options, and there are becoming more options because more people are consulting and freelancing now. There are more options for health insurance. So part of the way that you can, as far as the health insurance piece is concerned, kind of demystify some of that. It needs to be knowledge will help to demystify some of that fear. Because once you start to do your research around, okay, what are my insurance options, you may find that you have more than you think. You may have a partner that works and maybe you can get on their insurance. So there could be more options for you than what you are assuming that you have available to you. So that is something to consider as well when you are kind of thinking about some of the fears that come up and how you begin to dispel those fears. One of the other reasons that people are very fearful of quitting their job and pursuing entrepreneurship is they're not sure that their business idea is strong enough to sustain itself in the marketplace. And so that means that they're not sure that their business idea is good enough to be able to give them enough revenue to be able to completely make a living and make it so that they don't have to return back to the 9-to-5 world. So I want to also say that's a completely real and reasonable fear, right? But that is also a fear that can be easily demystified through work. And so it's that particular fear that I address in a lot of my coaching, more specifically in my brand coaching program, where I have the Build Your Brand from Scratch program, where I help folks who have a business concept actually vet their business concept, strengthen their brand, build out their brand so that they are in a position to where they know and are on track to develop an actual business that can be sustainable for them and have potential to grow and scale in revenue over time. That's what I help people to do, because it's very hard to, I know when I started a business, I didn't have much entrepreneurship experience at all. And there wasn't a program that I came across that existed like mine that would support me in getting that education. My program also supports you in having a community of people there to help vet ideas, to help you brainstorm, to help you work through any blocks. I'm there with you each step of the way to help you work through any blocks or questions or concerns that come up. And I didn't see a program like this when I went. Like, I wish there was a program like this. So one of the really cool things, I think if I could go back and do anything differently, I would have invested in things like coaching, things that I provide and things that I'm investing in now as an entrepreneur. I wish when I had that consistent paycheck, I would have invested in those types of things. And set some money aside to start to prepare me so that I can make that transition in a little bit more of a sturdy place. Because I was shaky, baby. I was shaky when I made that transition. It was very scary. So, and I know for a lot of people, like, that's why I don't encourage people to just, I mean, if that's what you want to do, quit your job tomorrow, do what you want. But I don't encourage people not to have a plan. Like, I wish I'd had more of a plan because it was scary. It was very scary, and sometimes it's easier to work when there isn't so much pressure applied. It's easier to be creative. It's easy to think when you're operating a little bit more on your own terms and making transitions when you're ready to make them. So that's one piece too, like people not being sure about their ideas. Another thing, of course, is the lack of knowledge, right? So we may have a ton of knowledge in our in our employee world. And I work with clients, they may have 20 or 30 years of experience in the corporate space, in their particular industry, and they may be very good and know very well what they do. But the entrepreneurship piece is a completely new world to them. And if you join me for some of my lives before, I've talked about the employee versus entrepreneur mindset. And so I said the things that serve you and support you in being an awesome employee and getting those promotions and getting those raises in the workplace are not necessarily the same things that will reward you in the entrepreneurship space. So that means that you have to, a lot of the process of transitioning from employee to entrepreneur is unlearning some things, right? And it's relearning some things. So it's, and it's kind of having your mind be agile and open to the fact that this served me here, but it's not going to serve me in this new phase of my life. And so that's a really hard transition. If you don't have coaching or someone to support you in making that transition, it's a rough thing. It's a rough thing to switch your mind from thinking like a boss, because as a boss, you're responsible. And this is why, personally, and this is just my personal preference, when I was working, I don't call someone my boss, because to me, if you have a boss, you're not a boss. That's just you a manager. You know, I have managers, supervisors, things like that. Person who may have a little bit of authority over me, but if you report to somebody, you're not my boss. And that's how I look at it. So when you're really transitioning, most of us, even if we're in positions of leadership, we're not a boss. Like, we have someone who's monitoring our work and someone we have to answer to, right? So in the business space, it's different because you're transitioning to being in a space where you're responsible for everything, right? Especially when you're first starting and maybe it's just you and you have very minimal help, right? Let alone when you're at a place where you're hiring people and you're overseeing a lot of others. Like, that's a whole another level. And to be honest, that's not even a level I'm at yet, where I'm managing and hiring like full-time employees. But when I grow there, that's going to require a whole nother level of thinking and mindset to be able to develop a team that represents the mission and vision of my business. That's a whole nother level. And so it's really, as employees, oftentimes our work is specialized. We know our areas very well. We may not understand how the work we do affects the entire company or how it affects an entire project. We understand our scope of things. So oftentimes our viewpoint is very linear and focused, especially if you're working in bigger companies. Sometimes if you work in nonprofit, like for me, my background is in nonprofit, I could see, because we had such a small staff and I was responsible for a lot more things, I could see a little bit more of like how the money went into the overall budget and how the work that I did affected the entire organization. Like, I had a little bit more of that vantage point because literally it was like less than 20 employees there. But if you're at one of those big corporations, you don't get to see that. So you don't get to see how like a small enterprise, some of us have never even worked at a small enterprise. It's hard for us to even conceptualize like how an enterprise really operates holistically and comes together. And so we really need support in understanding that and beginning to wrap our minds around what we know, what we don't know, what are the things that we can learn and be coached on, and what are the things that we're going to just need to learn from experience. So again, just reiterating my point that I made earlier for folks who are just coming in, if I could go back and do something differently, I would have invested in a coach. I would have invested in some sort of program that would have helped me make that transition. And there aren't a ton out there. As far as the program that I offer, I don't see a lot of programs similar that really help to teach you branding fundamentals. There's a lot that kind of talk to you after that, like they help you with marketing and stuff like that, but that's kind of like after you already have a brand, right? Like, there aren't a lot of opportunities to learn those fundamental points. And so that's why I think that's so important for me to share in a lot of my messaging and content, as well as in my coaching. That's a lot of what I do. I make sure our basics and fundamentals are right before we kind of step into some of the more advanced things around marketing and sales and things like that. So what was the last answer I just said? So I just talked about, okay, I'm gonna go to some comments also. So I just talked about people having issues transitioning into the mindset, right? So some of the comments we have here, Uganda says, you definitely need a mentor when starting out, and I recommend keeping a mentor. Very true. And you may work with different ones. Like, at each level, you're going to need some sort of mentorship and coaching to support you. And if you're looking to transition out of your job in some sort of like timeline, I typically work with people who are looking to transition out between 6 and 24 months. You want some sort of coaching to help kind of pace you through all the steps and milestones you need to be taking. Because if not, then you're kind of creating the journey on your own, and you could be all over the place, and then you may find yourself not being able to exit out of that job in a more expedited fashion. So you really want to be thinking about, like, if you have clear goals of like, I know I want to be up out of here in a year, what's going to help you get there is having somebody who has a program or some sort of coaching, some sort of format they can take you through that's literally going to get you there. Because if you're not familiar with entrepreneurship, you don't know what you don't know, right? And you're going to have to figure all those things out the hard way. I know I missed some comments up here. So feel free to ask questions as I'm talking. I'm looking through the comments now. So picture that. Houston says, I always enjoy your lives and mentoring. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And KGE says, that's it. We become comfortable in the security the 9 to 5 creates. Yes. And it's so interesting because a lot of it is a mindset shift. Like, I feel right now, in my life, I feel more secure as an entrepreneur because I feel like I have more control over my earning than I did when I was at a job. Because at a job, I made a particular salary a year and I was limited to that. So if something happened in my life, like where an extra expense came up or something I wanted to do, I felt very limited to like, okay, well, this is the salary I have to work with for the entire year. Whereas in a business, I'm like, well, I could sell a few more of my, like, I just had some issues with my car. I'm like, okay, like this would have completely took me in a tizzy when I was working full time. But now I feel like, okay, well, I can just sell another program or, incorporate more people into my one-on-one coaching, get some more people enrolled, and that'll easily cover those costs. Like, that's the way I can think about it now. So I feel a lot more control over my earning ability than I did when I was in the 9 to 5 world, because I was limited based on what they were going to pay me for what I was offering. So that's another way. Some of it is a little bit like reorientating your mindset to say, you know what? And to a certain extent, this can create maybe more security over time. Maybe not right away, but over time, as you gain confidence and you're able to generate income on a regular basis and have a consistent cash flow, you might feel like, well, there's more things in my control as far as my life is concerned when I have a business. Whereas a job, they can let me go. They can, they can cut they don't really just usually cut your pay, but a number of things happen. You get laid off and get furloughed, they can let you go. Different things can happen, and it puts you in a tricky position. So KGE Talent says, my passion is ministry and acting. Awesome. Okay, so I think I read those up there. Let me see where we are now. You definitely need a mentor. Okay. So Forever Lori asks, when working in corporate, you also don't have any control over how your ideas are implemented and you don't get full credit. That is also very true. And I think for me, when I was in corporate, that was one of the things I didn't like, because I felt like I had good ideas, but they wouldn't get implemented sometimes. Like, there were certain situations where I would suggest things, and I'm coming from my expertise, my part of it is my youth too, because what I was doing was like around marketing, branding, same thing I do in my business. So I'm coming from, hey, this is what the next trends are. This is where things are going. This is kind of where we need to be. And I remember receiving like so much resistance sometimes to like, well, I'm trying to tell them, hey, these are where the trends are going, because I would keep my tabs on everything that was happening, what some of the top competitors were doing. And I was like, we need to be doing what they're doing. And I would get so much resistance. And after a while, it was frustrating to me at first. After a while, when I had my own business, I was like, I'll just incorporate this into my own business because I appreciate my ideas. I appreciate what I'm trying to do. So, I don't need, and I think I got to a certain point where I wasn't even sharing as many ideas. I'm like, I'm going to just come in here and do what y'all asked me to do. Because when I come here and I'm sharing some good stuff with you guys and I'm letting you know, hey, this is like where the trends of things are going. This is where we need to be thinking about. There's so much resistance. It's not even worth it to me, So that's definitely a good point. And then, yeah, you don't have control over the ideas. You're not the decision maker. yeah, you don't control how they're implemented, so they can be implemented in a way that isn't necessarily in alignment with what you were trying to express. And then, yeah, you don't get full credit. Like, people outside don't know that it was you. The company gets credit for what you do in exchange for giving you a paycheck, each month. So that's a very good point. And then Forever Lori also says, also being a Black woman, you're sometimes overlooked. And yeah, that can definitely happen. Definitely have been in situations where I feel like I was overlooked in different corporate environments, from internships to jobs. Definitely had those experiences. Just the overall experience, especially when you're in a creative, when your job is related to creativity, where you're like, so y'all just not gonna implement. And especially when in the room and you're one of the only Black people, and they're trying to do something with Black people, or do something with people of color, or do something to attract an identity of people that identifies with who you are, and you're like, well, I'm trying to tell you how we think, what we're about, and then your voice is not heard and not being considered. That is very true, and it's exhausting. It actually creates an experience for you in the workplace where it feels even more daunting to be in it, because not only are you just in it as an employee, you're also like a Black employee, or you're a Black female employee, and you feel like anytime there's a meeting, I have to speak up for my identity of people. So that could be the same thing for people who are LGBTQ, like whatever your identity is. If you're not a white male, and yeah, if you're not a white male, then you're gonna be feeling like, okay, I need to come in there and speak on this perspective every time, and what you're saying may or may not even be regarded as important or implemented or heard properly. So that's you speaking facts. You speaking straight facts right there, Forever Lori, for sure. Hey, I Pray Pretty, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing? Good to have you in the room. So we're in here talking about if folks are thinking about quitting. I just went through some of the various reasons why people are fearful to quit. I talked a little bit more about some of my programs. I also want to direct you to my pinned message. So if you are thinking about starting a brand, or maybe you just started a business and you want to make sure that you have a strong brand, or maybe you've even been running into a few issues with your marketing and branding strategy, I want you to go ahead and feel free to check out my free masterclass that I'm offering to everyone. It's linked in my bio. Check that out. That's going to show you the 5 fundamentals that you need to build a brand framework that is uber strong and really prepared for scaling. In that class, I talk a little bit about my group coaching program as well. So as you're learning more about that, if you're interested in making this transition and you're like, I want to make this transition within a certain time frame and I need some support in getting there, go ahead and check out my bio as well. I have information about my one-to-one coaching and my group coaching. So you can check that out, set up some time with me to talk if it interests you, and we can talk more, because what I want to do in our conversation is learn more about your goals, learn more about when it is you're trying to live your job, what it is you're trying to achieve, income goals, all those things, and really figure out if the programs that I offer are a good fit for where you're trying to go, and if I can support you. And if we can, then of course, love to get you enrolled in the program. So you're definitely welcome to check those things out. You're welcome, Lori. Awesome. And so I Pray Pretty says, quit. Sorry, y'all. I had to hang up. Sorry, somebody was calling me. Yeah, I Pray Pretty says, quit. That's how I feel. I'm like, if you don't like your job, at the minimum, you can find another job that you can tolerate a little bit better. Like, maybe your ultimate goal is to just do your own business. But if you're not ready to do that, you don't have to stay. There's other jobs. Like, there's other jobs. There's other things you could be doing. Because I know a lot of times people feel really stuck. And for a moment, I felt that way as well. So I'm not coming from a space that I haven't also dealt with those same things. So there was definitely a time where I felt super stuck, and I'm like, I don't really like this job, but what else could I do? Like, sometimes, jobs can do things they can put some bruises on your confidence and your self-esteem as well. Because sometimes if you're not performing the way the job wants you, or individuals at the job want you to perform, it can weigh on your self-esteem and your confidence. So you may not feel like what you have to offer actually matters and is valuable to people. And so you really, it's a great skill at minimum to have even a side hustle going, because that really helps you to keep a more accurate view of how your skills are assessed. And so I know I talk to a lot of clients who don't really understand how valuable their skill set is. I'm like, maybe at your job, that particular company and those particular individuals, maybe even at that company, did not value what you brought to the table. But in the entrepreneurship world, you could be working with clients, like a number of people need this type of stuff, right? They need this type of support. And so I know for me at my job, that was a little bit of the case. I felt like what I brought was not valued by the organization. But I realized as an entrepreneur, what I bring is super valuable. Like, people need this. People really need help branding. People need help learning how to build a brand from scratch. And while they may not care, right? There's so many people that care. And sometimes when you stay into a job that you're not really passionate about, then you're not able to really make the impact that you want to make. So that's also something to consider. Not just, I don't really want to be dealing with these people anymore, right? I don't really want them telling me what to do. But it's also like, I want to leave a legacy. I want to do something that matters. And is this job I'm working going to really enable me to be able to do that? So those are things to think about as well. Hey, Dion, welcome. And Lori says, you are not alone feeling like that. Okay, sorry, y'all. Did they come pick me up? Okay, you guys, I'm gonna have to end this live because I think that's my car company. My car dealership called me to tell me my car is ready. So I am gonna have to let you guys go. I'm gonna leave the live a little early, but thank you so much for joining me. Definitely join the She Live Club if you're not already a member, so that you can get texts each time I'm live. I think tomorrow I'm gonna go on Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, I have a few invitations. If you're not and you have an iPhone, so shoot me a DM for that. And then also join the She Live Club so you can get a text each time I'm live, and check out my link for any of my programs. So thank you so much for joining. Mwah. Have a good rest of your day, and I'm wishing you all the best.